Hey, friends! Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. Come join me, your host, Nicole, for some hope-filled conversations about heartfelt entertainment that makes your heart swing. Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Swing My Heart podcast. I'm your host, Nicole, and today I'm excited to have a very special guest back on the show. From Southern roots to literary heights, today's guest has carved out a space in readers' hearts with stories that linger long after the last page. She's a rising voice from the Harpeth Road publishing family, and whether she's writing about love, loss, or the quiet moments in between, her work is steeped in emotion, rich character, and that rare kind of storytelling magic. Her newest novel in the Big Dune Island series, If I'd Have Known, is a heartwarming story about family, second chances, and learning that love doesn't have to mean losing yourself, and it might just be her best yet. In this episode, we'll dive into the inspiration behind Big Dune Island, explore the themes of healing, homecoming, and heartache that run through her books, and hear how Savannah crafts stories that feel as real and restorative as a walk along the shore. So grab your headphones and maybe a beach blanket because today we're heading to Big Dune Island with Savannah Carlisle. Welcome back, Savannah.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course, yes. And I'm excited to chat about your new book with you today.
Me too.
Of
This
course.
one was fun because when I wrote the first book in this series, I was not planning on it being a series. And then later got asked, actually by a different publisher than the publisher I ended up with, to sort of think on what would a second book in the series immediately. It would be Austin and Gigi because I loved them so much from the summer of starting over when I wrote it. And it was really easy then to sort of, grab them and run with their story. And I have to say, Austin is my favorite book boyfriend I've ever written. And I've written two more books since this. And not that I don't think those characters are great too, but Austin has a special place in my heart. He's a different kind of book boyfriend.
Oh, love it. So last time we spoke was September, October of 2024, after the release of the Library of Second Chances. Since then, you've had a lot of exciting things going on. Can you take a minute and share with us some of the projects you've been involved with besides the release of If I'd Have Known?
Yeah, so back in the spring, in April of 2025, I released the first book in this Big Dune Island series, and it's called The Summer of Starting Over. It's somewhere, let's see, on my bookshelf here
Yeah.
for people who are watching. I actually wrote this book before I wrote The Library of Second Chances, and I had a literary agent, and we went out on submission with this book in 2020, not knowing that the pandemic was about to start. And so my book was sort of hanging out with editors over the spring and summer of 2020, which was not a great time to try and sell a book to a publishing house. And ultimately, we ended up deciding not to do additional rounds. We had only sent it out, I think, to 6 or 7 editors, and my agent and I decided not to send it out anymore. In the meantime, I had been writing the Library of Second Chances, and I ended up with a book deal for it first. And so after the Library of Second Chances came out, I actually, even before it was out for people to read, after I had turned it in and I was done with my part of it, I said to my publisher, I have this other book and it's totally done. It didn't sell to the 6 or 7 publishers we already went out to, but I still have it and I still really love it. And so they had me send it over, and that ended up becoming The Summer of Starting Over. And there had been a publisher during that first round who had said, does this have series potential? What would the second book look like? So I had actually written out in 2020 a synopsis for what ended up becoming If I'd Have Known, following Austin and Gigi, who are the best friends of the characters from The Summer of Starting Over. So they can be read as standalones, but I think they're better together because if you read The Summer of Starting Over first, you're going to get introduced to Austin and Gigi as sort of the sidekicks to the main characters in that book. And you're going to start to see a little taste of what their relationship and what their friendship is like. And then they're the focus of If I'd Have Known. And it was really fun to sort of revisit because I had written those characters when I started writing. If I'd have known, it was the fall of 2024. So it had been 5 or 6 years since I wrote the first book in the series. So I had to like go back and read it. I had to remember what had I named the restaurants and the stores and how had I described the island and then what characteristics had I given to the people. And I actually had my assistant pull every mention I had in the first book of Austin and Gigi and make an Austin document and a Gigi document of literally everything they said and everything that was said about them. And I read through all of that like almost every day before I started writing the first early chapters because I wanted to make sure I stayed really consistent with who they were in that first book. Because when you end up writing a series you weren't planning, sometimes you haven't always made the best choices in the first book. There were a couple of things we actually when my book went to print, like right before it went to print, to rename some characters and change some things to make the second book easier. So I think it would have been great to have planned out the series in the beginning, but instead I planned out the series in the middle of book two.
Oh, I love that. I think it's awesome that the characters from both books are friends.
Yes. The four of them have been best friends since they were kids. And so that was the easy sort of couple to go to next. We could talk about it more later, but there are more books in the series coming. And so as I was writing the second book, I really started focusing on dropping more nuggets about other characters who I could pick up their stories in later books. I hadn't really done that in the first book, except that I had developed Austin and Gigi really well because they were the best friends of the main characters. And I knew from the first day I put them on the page together that they had this really crazy kind of chemistry. Like I had trouble even deciding, was it an enemies to lovers or was it a friends to lovers? Because they sort of spar back and forth and tease each other like enemies to lovers, but really they are friends. They've been friends since they were little kids, but they know how to sort of pick at each other and they know how to call each other out on things they're doing wrong or old habits they're falling into. And so they really hold each other accountable in a way that's really different from other characters that I've written.
Yeah, that's awesome. That description kind of reminds me a little bit of the beginnings of Jack and Elizabeth's relationship on the Hallmark show When Calls the Heart.
Yes.
Like they
I,
always sparred with one another,
yes.
but
You get the great banter. Like I feel like the
yeah.
banter is so easy in enemies to lovers. Like my first book, The Library of Second Chances, that's more of a enemies
Mhm.
or rivals to lovers. And I loved writing that banter. And I wanted Austin and Gigi to have that banter, but then I realized they're really not enemies. They've been friends forever. They're just a different kind of friendship. And my idea of who they were and how their friendship had evolved actually changed in the writing of the book. The first draft of the book actually looked a lot different than the final product in terms of how I introduced some of their backstory throughout the book and sort of why they haven't ever gotten together before now. But I'm really happy with how it turned out.
Yes, and I can't wait to read it. I think it's going to be great. So, in addition to your writing, I remember seeing some of your Instagram posts where you've done some traveling. Do you have a favorite memory you can share from that experience?
I actually do a lot of traveling because in my other life, when I'm not writing romance novels, I'm a freelance writer. I mostly am a sports business reporter, but I actually do some travel writing. So I spend a lot of my time on the road, either specifically for travel writing or because I'm traveling for sports related stuff that I'm doing. So I actually spent a big portion of today planning a retreat I'm doing for travel writers out in California in the Tri Valley wine country. So I'm super excited and looking forward to that. But I've had some great trips this summer. I got to go to Columbus, Ohio for the Columbus Book Festival, one of the best book festivals I've ever been to. It was incredible, so well run, so organized, incredible authors there across a lot of different genres. So that was maybe my favorite trip of the summer was getting to go do that.
I love that. And I love traveling too. And it's a beautiful world out there with lots of great places to visit and see.
And because I live in Florida, I don't really get fall
Yeah.
in Florida. So I'm heading in about 10 days out to Colorado so I can see the leaves change and feel some nice, cool fall weather. And I'm going to be I'm doing a little solo writing retreat. I'm going to be working on a new book while I'm out there. So I get really inspired by travel and by places. And in fact, I'm going to Breckenridge, Colorado, and it is going to be where I'm setting, or where I did already set a Christmas book I have coming out this Christmas. So I very much get inspired by the places where I end up writing.
And I hope you have a great time in Colorado. I've heard it's
I can't
beautiful
wait.
there.
Oh, I'm just so ready for the cool weather because we have not gotten there yet in Florida.
No, not here either. In South Carolina. Nope. Although there have been a couple days when it's cooled down a little bit. But
Supposedly it's coming, I hear. I'm waiting for it.
yes. Before we talk, if I'd have known, your first novel in the Big Dune Island series, Summer of Starting Over, tells the story of Jesse and Callie, which is built around ambition, heartbreak, and timing. What was the first spark that set the story in motion for you? And what was the inspiration behind the characters?
Yeah, so that one's actually based on a song. I spent many, many, many years thinking about this song. It's by Miranda Lambert and it's called The House That Built Me. And for those who haven't heard it, it talks about this woman who's going back to the house she grew up in. It's pretty clear her family doesn't own it anymore, but she goes up to the person who owns it now and asks if she can come in and look around. And in the song, she's talking about how she's trying to remember who she used to be and she's trying to get back to that person she used to be. And I literally spent years thinking about like, what is the story before this happened? Like, what has happened in this woman's life or her career that she needs to go back to where she grew up to sort of recenter and remember who she is? And I literally just woke up one morning and had the idea and like knew what I wanted it to be. And I scribbled it down in a notebook. And this book took me over 2 years to write the first time. And then it has been through many, many edits since then. Like I mentioned, it was actually the first book I wrote before the Library of Second Chances. And I decided to kind of mix that song with a little bit of Taylor Swift's career. But I thought, what if when Taylor Swift went from country to pop, things went horribly wrong? What if that had not been a good call for her? What if she had been, pressured by the industry to make that switch and then it had ruined her career instead of skyrocketing it? And so that was kind of the premise behind this, is that Callie got discovered as a teenager. I actually saw Taylor Swift perform when she was a teenager before she ever got signed. And so I feel like I've watched her journey from the very beginning. And so I gave Callie a little bit of that journey. She gets discovered as a teenager, gets signed to a big label. She moves to Nashville. Her career skyrockets. She's doing incredible, but her manager and her label start pushing her to make this transition to pop because it's a little more universal. It's a bigger market than country music is. And she makes the switch. She changes her look. But in that, she sort of loses herself. And so the book starts as she's coming back home to Big Dune Island. She's coming to sell her parents' house. Unfortunately, they have passed away in an accident that happens before the book off page. So if anybody wants a trigger warning, that is not something that happens in the book. It has already happened years ago in the past, but she's just now coming back to clean out the house and sell it. And she finds her high school sweetheart there. He is actually the person who has bought the house and wants to renovate it, sort of for his own purposes. And they never really resolved how they broke up. And so not only is she back kind of licking her wounds from her career, but now she's got to face sort of what she did to him as well, and just sort of all the other stuff she left behind when she left the island. And at the same time, being back on the island reminds her who she is and where she came from and the things that were important to her in the beginning. So I always tell people it's sort of this like mind meld of that song and then Taylor Swift's career if I took it off course.
Oh, I love that. And I love Taylor Swift's music too. And I love that Miranda Lambert song. I actually have seen Taylor Swift 3 times.
Saw her very first tour. She was in like a small arena,
Yeah.
and not even in Atlanta. She was at a place called the Gwinnett Center. I grew up in Gwinnett
Yeah.
County outside of Atlanta, and she was there in 2009. And then I've been to see her a few more times since then, but it's been really neat to kind of,
Yeah.
she's a little younger than I am, so I've been able to like watch her career progression, and
Yeah.
I'm glad it's gone better for her than it went for Callie. It did not go well for Callie in the
Yeah.
book.
Oh. All of your books sound like they could be Hallmark movies, but definitely this one.
Yes, I would love for Big Dune Island to be a whole series. Like I think all the time about what it would look like because it's a book series and because you've got all these different couples, like there's all these kind of stories that can be told on Big Dune Island. And we haven't had anything set in a coastal sort of place since Chesapeake Shores. So I feel like maybe it's
Yeah.
time.
Yes. If the summer of starting over and if I'd have known were turned into Hallmark movies, who would you want to play the characters in these books?
So I always kind of cast as I'm writing the book because I like see what's happening and I'm sort of writing what I see. So Austin was really easy. I knew Austin was Christopher Russell from like the minute I
Yeah.
created him because I wanted him to be blonde and really like athletic because he's a former Major League Baseball player and he has this like, people talk about like, heroes that have the golden retriever energy. Like he's very much that kind of character. And so I think Christopher Russell fits perfect for that. Jessica Lowndes was who I picked for Gigi. She like physically looks like I imagined Gigi looking, and I could just see them having good chemistry. I was trying to think if they've actually done a movie together, and I'm not sure that they have.
They have.
Um,
I just
have
can't
they?
remember which one it is.
Yeah. So I feel like they would have good chemistry together.
Yeah.
And then for the summer of starting over, I kind of looked at who at Hallmark sings and who kind of looked like I pictured Callie looking in my head. And I ended up with Jesse Schramm for Callie. And then I started with Mark Blucas for Jesse. And then somewhere in the middle of writing the book, I decided to go off Hallmark casting and decided really it's Stephen Amell. Like that's who I picture when I picture Jesse. So
Uh,
I always like pick the actors and then I'll send that to the person that does my character art and be like, this is kind of what I want them to look like. And so I ended up sending Stephen Amell for Jesse.
I love that. And Steven is great. He was in the
Oh,
One Calls the Heart pilot movie. He's a
yes, he
fantastic.
would be so good on Hallmark, but he's too busy with, he did Suits, although I think they've canceled it. So now he's available again, but he seems to always have so much other stuff going
Yeah.
on. I
Yes.
loved him in Arrow, so that's kind of why I picked him.
Yep. He played the Mountie in the One Calls the Heart pilot movie.
Ah, okay. I don't know if I've ever even seen that. I need to go back and watch it.
Yes, it's on Hallmark Plus.
Okay. I've got
Yeah.
Hallmark Plus, so I will go back and watch
Yes,
it.
it's great.
And now that, we've got all these new Hallmark actors and
Yeah.
actresses coming in too. And so I was watching, can't even remember which movie the other day. And I was like, okay, I've got like all new people I can choose from. And I know some of the people I've picked in the past aren't really doing Hallmark anymore, which is okay. Like I just need some inspiration. I need to be able to see the people when I'm writing. So as soon as I am ready to sit down and start writing the first chapter, I'm already sort of casting them in my mind so that I can see them.
Love that. Always a great tactic.
Yes.
Jesse's life stayed grounded on the island while Callie chased stardom. How did you build a romance that had to grow apart before it could grow together again?
I wanted them to have a breakup that was realistic for teenagers because when they broke up, it would have been time for him to go off to college. She would have still had one more year left in high school, but then she gets discovered. And I needed it to be realistic, but also I did not want him to follow her. I wanted him to be on his own path. And this does not give anything big away in the book, but I decided that his family, they owned a construction business and that the business would sort of be in crisis and that he would stay behind to help save the family business. And it sort of evolved as I was writing it into Callie kind of pushing him into that. Like he wanted to follow her, but she knew he would regret it and that he needed to help his family. And so she really pushed him away to get him to stay. And so that's sort of where their unresolved issues are when she comes back. They haven't kept in touch. He feels like she ditched him to like go live her, Nashville dreams and he had to stay behind and work really hard. But he did save his family's business and he is thriving at this point when she comes back. She's kind of at a low point in her career and he's starting to hit a high in his career. So we find them in really different places when they come back together and then they have that kind of old hurt to solve. But also, they were teenagers, they were young, they said and did some immature things, but that's what teenagers do.
Mhm.
So hopefully everybody thinks that, I tried to make it as realistic as possible, something that could really happen.
Yeah, I think it'll be realistic. And sometimes you have to grow apart before you can come back together,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Yeah. And I know people that happened to, that
Yeah.
they broke up, after high school or in college and then ended up coming back together later.
Hmm. Very true. I think I know some people like that too. What do you think her decision to leave Big Dune Island says about love, sacrifice, and the pressure to choose either ambition or a connection?
Yeah, it was a big choice for her to have to make as a teenager. But, if you've got one of the biggest record labels in country music offering you a record deal, who's going to say no to that?
Yeah.
So I think, it was something she had to do. That was her dream, and it was just coming true early. She thought she would move to Nashville, for college with him, and she'd start singing in like showcases, and maybe somebody would discover her. But instead, she got discovered early, and Taylor Swift got discovered really young like that as well. And so, she wasn't going to pass up that opportunity, but it wasn't the right timing for him to go with her. He did have this thing he needed to stay and do to help his dad and his family. And he is a family guy. He's very loyal to his family. And although she sort of pushed him into it so that he wouldn't make a sort of reckless decision to follow her, I think at the end of the day, he probably would have made the right choice. He's that kind of guy.
I think so too. With a big opportunity like that, I don't think you could pass that up.
Exactly.
I mean, it's tough, kind of a two-edged sword, so to speak.
Yeah, and I think at that age, like to make the decision to stay and to give up a big opportunity like that, to stay, because of your college boyfriend, I don't know if that makes a lot of sense either, or something that most people would do. They were young and it wasn't the right time. And that's sort of the idea is this idea that they were right for each other, it just wasn't the right time.
Timing is everything. Trust the timing.
Yes. That comes up again in If I'd Have Known with Austin and Gigi. It's
Yeah.
again this idea that they've known each other their whole lives. It's probably always been right, but it hasn't ever been the right time until now.
Yes. There's something haunting about returning to a place you left behind. What was the emotional compass you used to write Callie's homecoming?
Yeah, so Callie hasn't been back to the house since her parents died. It's been 13 years since they've died. She's 29 or 30, I think, in the book, if I remember correctly. And unfortunately, they had died in a car accident years ago, and she hasn't come back. After the funeral, she left and concentrated on her life in Nashville, and it was just too painful to come back. And now she's had to come back because her uncle Lonnie actually is the one who owns, it's a family house on her mom and her uncle's side of the family, and he decides to sell it to Jesse, and she has to come back to clean it out, but she hasn't been in the house since her parents died. And so she actually spends a lot of the book not being able to go inside the house. She just can't go inside and face the memories, and it's Jesse who has to help her go back inside again.
Hmm. That's tough, but I'm sure that it's a beautiful story that you have written with
Yeah,
her
I think
homecoming.
everybody has experienced some sort of, grief or loss. In fact, Uncle Lonnie, who's in the book, is named after my grandfather. My grandfather's name was Lonnie. And I also gave his wife my grandmother's name, Doris. And there's some characteristics about them that are true about my grandparents because I wanted to sort of honor that. But, I just felt like there had to be something that had been keeping her from this place. And that sort of evolved into killing off her parents. My mom remarked to me recently, I've killed off a lot of parents in my books, but
Oh,
giving people these emotional wounds from their
yeah.
parent. Both of my parents are still alive, and I'm so grateful. But sometimes it works for the storyline, and I've got to kill one or both of them off before we get onto the page. And it's a lot of what has made Callie who she is. Some of the bad decisions she made because she was trying to navigate a really complicated space as a very young woman who has lost her parents, who had been sort of her guides. And so part of how she's gotten in the situation she's in with her career is surrounding herself with the wrong people. And some of that is because of her parents dying. And then, the reason she hasn't come back to the island and the reason she hasn't gone back into the house. I mean, this grief that she has still never processed, she just threw herself into work. It's something she has to overcome in the book, I think, for a lot of different reasons, to go back inside the house, to give Jesse another chance, to get her career back on track. Like she pushed this aside for over a decade, and like now she has to deal with it. She has no choice.
It is heartbreaking, but it does happen. The emotions can only linger for so long before you have to face them, so to speak.
And I think a lot of people do throw themselves into work, whether it's somebody passing away or just, something else bad happening, especially if you like what you do, you throw yourself into your work. I know I'm guilty of that. And so I made Callie guilty of that as well, that she just focused on work and didn't really deal with what happened. And so now that she doesn't have work has sort of been taken away from her, out of her control. So now she has no choice but to come back and deal with this.
Yeah. So the idea of coming home is powerful in fiction. What does home mean to Callie and to you?
Yeah, I think Callie figures out pretty quickly that home for her is about the people. It's Big Dune Island, but what makes Big Dune Island special are the people there. And that's part of why it was easy to turn this into a series, is because when I wrote this book, even though I wasn't planning a series, the town and the people in it are a big part of the story. I wanted the town to feel like it was another character. And then I wanted there to be all these really rich and sometimes quirky characters in town, which gave me a lot of people to pull from as I started writing future books. But I think that it's the people that help her with everything. It's the people that help her, get past what happened in her career. It's the people that help her get over her grief. And it's not just Jesse, it's Gigi, her best friend. It's her uncle Lonnie. It's, Austin and Gigi. It's everybody in the town and the connection she has. And the fact that these people, even though she sort of left them and left town, they've never left her. They've never stopped caring about her. They've never stopped, following her career. They all want what's best for her. So I think for her, home is about these people that are there. And they all play a really big role in how she reclaims her career and moves forward.
Oh, yeah, I love that. And that is very true. Home is not a place, it's the people around you that you love and care about. If Callie could leave one voicemail for her younger self right before she left for Nashville, what would she say?
I think it would be about Jesse, and it would be about telling herself that she was doing the right thing by pushing him away and sort of making him stay. His instinct is to want to follow her to Nashville. He had a baseball scholarship at Vanderbilt, and he could have been going at the same time as her. And she pushes him away to get him to stay and help his dad save the company. And I think there were probably times that she questioned whether that was the right decision. And certainly it hurt her to leave him behind, and it hurt her to hurt him and sort of force him to stay behind. So I think she would have left herself a message about why she made that choice and why it was right, so that in those moments when she second guessed herself, she could go back and listen to that.
That's great. Was there a particular scene in the summer of starting over that was your absolute favorite to write and what made it special for you?
Oh, that's a good question. Can I say two things? I want to say like
Yeah.
one element that's really special to me in the story, and then more of a scene. So towards the beginning, it talks about that Uncle Lonnie tends to these hydrangeas in his yard, and he alters the soil to make sure that they stay blue. And he does that for his dearly departed wife, Doris, because that was her favorite color. She loved the blue hydrangeas. I love blue hydrangeas. And that's something that my grandfather would have done for my grandmother. It's not something he actually did, but 100% it's something he would have done for her. My grandfather would have done anything to make my grandmother happy. And so I really infused that into Uncle Lonnie. And now the blue hydrangeas, spoiler for all my books, there are blue hydrangeas somewhere in every single book I've written. That's sort of my little breadcrumb I leave in every book. In the Library of Second Chances, there's a book title that says something about, I guess it's not always blue hydrangeas, but there's always hydrangeas. So in the Library of Second Chances, there is a book title that has the word hydrangea in it. And then if I'd have known, you can tell on the cover has pink hydrangeas. I think we talk about some other colors too, but it has pink hydrangeas on the cover. So that in all my books. But I think one of the really fun scenes I did, and it kind of it takes place, I guess, over a few scenes. Have you seen Sweet Home Alabama?
Yes, it's been a
Okay,
long
so
time.
I love Sweet Home Alabama. I'm not going to give away anything in the book, but in Sweet Home Alabama, there is this guy who's going around town asking for Reese Witherspoon's character. He keeps asking everybody where she lives, where she is. He's
Yeah.
trying to find her, and no one in town will tell him because they're super protective of her and they shut him down, and no one will tell him where she is. And I won't tell you who he ends up being in case people haven't seen Sweet Home Alabama, but I decided to do that in this book. There's a woman who starts showing up places looking for Callie Callie, and the town sort of rallies around to protect her, and nobody will tell her where Callie is. And they warn Callie to look out for her, and she ends up playing a big role towards the end of the book. So that was sort of my ode to Sweet Home Alabama, and that was really fun to write.
I love that and can't wait to read that scene or scenes. That's one of my favorite rom-coms.
I love Sweet Home Alabama. In
Yes.
fact, at one point, the title of the summer of starting over was Sweet Home Sunset Beach. And it wasn't going to be Big Dune Island. It was going to be called Sunset Beach. And I was playing off the Sweet Home Alabama title, but titles get changed a lot. So that title did not make it to the end.
That would have been a great title, but I love the
Maybe,
summer of
maybe a
starting
future book.
over two. Yes. Let's talk about If I'd Have Known, the second in the Big Dune Island series, in which Gigi's juggling a secret wedding, a mystery inheritance, and a slow burn romance. What inspired you to mix law drama, romance, and a dash of intrigue with this story?
So I am a lawyer, and Gigi is partially based on my best friend Teresa. If you read the dedication, you'll see me say that. It's no secret. She's a big part of the inspiration. In fact, Gigi's office in the book is exactly what my friend's law office looked like. She actually just became our city attorney here in our little town. But the way that I describe her office, it's in an old historic house, and that's exactly how my friend's office was when I was writing the book. And so I wanted to sort of infuse that. I had made Gigi a lawyer in the first book because I wanted Gigi, I want her to be really different from Callie. She's ambitious in a totally different way. She's super career focused, and Callie's career focused too, but Gigi is career focused, and I think in a more cutthroat way. And Gigi is a type A perfectionist, and she just super competitive. She always wins, whatever it is. And then, Austin is the complete opposite. He's so laid back and go with the flow, and like, he's just happy all the time. Like, he's so easy. So they have very, very, very different contrasting personalities. So I started thinking about, I sort of knew who they were already from the first book. And I started thinking, like, how are they going to spend more time together in the second book? And the first idea I had was planning Callie and Jesse's wedding, which, I mean, they're romance, so I don't think I'm spoiling anything to say that Callie and Jesse end up together at the end of the summer starting over. You just don't know how they get there. But in If I'd Have Known, Austin and Gigi are planning their wedding secretly because Callie doesn't want it to get out and for there to be paparazzi there and whatever. And so they convince Gigi's mom and dad to pretend that it's their wedding anniversary. And that way everyone in town will come out because nobody wants to miss Miss Myrtle's wedding anniversary. Miss Myrtle is a big character in the first book. She has a big personality and is kind of a amalgamation of my grandmother and her best friend with some other characteristics thrown in to make her more dramatic. And they convince her to get everybody on board for this anniversary party. And then really when people show up, it's going to be the surprise wedding for Callie and Jesse. So Gigi and Austin have to do all the planning because Callie and Jesse can't be going to look at venues and getting flowers and whatever, or people will know that this wedding is coming. And so that was my way to have Gigi and Austin spend more time together and to butt heads a little bit because they have different ideas about things. Um, and that kind of wasn't enough when I started writing the book. Like, there just wasn't enough story there. So then I started thinking about what types of things would Gigi be working on. And I kind of borrowed from something happening on the real island where I live. I live on Amelia Island in Florida, and Big Dune Island is very much based on here, fictionalized because I like to be able to move things around and make things a little bit different. But there is a property battle here on my island that I worked into the story with some undeveloped land on the south end of the island, which we also have. And I know a lot about what has happened in the legal case with that. And I put a lot of those things in the book with that piece of property and decided, to have that small town charm that there should be a B&B. And so let's put the B&B on the beach right next to where this development is happening. And in reality, the B&B I described looks exactly like a B&B here on our island called Elizabeth Point Lodge. In fact, if you go back through my Instagram, I took pictures on publication day of the book at Elizabeth Point Lodge because I based the exterior sort of description of the B&B. But on my island, Elizabeth Point Lodge is way on the north end of the island. And that's why I like having fictional towns, because I moved it way to the south end so that I could put it next to this property in question so that the B&B would be under threat of development. And so there is this whole mystery about who the rightful owner of the B&B is because the owner of the B&B has passed. She did not have a will, she did not have children, so we do not know who the owner of the B&B is. And Austin gets involved in a little of that too. They're spending so much of their time together planning the wedding. He gets a little bit involved in the B&B mystery as well. And so I think it all ties in together really nicely, but it evolved as I was writing it.
That sounds amazing, and I can't wait to read it. A little bit of everything, a little bit of mystery, a little bit of romance,
This is the
wedding.
most mystery I've ever done in a book. And actually, it led me to do my Christmas book that's coming out this year, has a big mystery in it. And that was kind of inspired by how much I enjoyed working on the mystery in this book. I don't think I want to write mystery books, but I like having these romance or women's fiction books that have a little mystery to solve in them.
Yeah. I always love the mysteries, sometimes more than the rom-coms on Hallmark. I'm not even joking.
Yeah. I think it's fun. It's hard to write, like,
Yeah.
because you want to like drop enough clues, but not so
Hmm.
many that people figure it out early. So I'm super excited because several of the reviews that I've gotten talk about how surprising the twist was, and that's the first time I've ever written a
Oh,
twist. And I love reading thrillers and mysteries, but I don't have any plans to ever write one. And so I was kind of proud of myself that I managed to put like a little twist in
yeah.
mine. And then I did it again for my Christmas book. So I might do that more often now.
Yes, you should. I think it'll be great. So the B&B inheritance plot introduces legacy secrets and personal discovery. How did that storyline shape Gigi's view of love?
Yeah, so part of the storyline here too, and one of the reasons that Austin and Gigi are so connected is that they each have a parent with whom they have a lot of baggage. Austin, it's with his dad, and Gigi, it's with her mom, and they've always bonded over the fact that they have these sort of overbearing parents that they have sort of fought with their whole lives. And so that bonds them together. And I really wanted both of them to start on a journey of healing. Their parents are still alive. I did not kill off their parents. So their parents are still alive. And I wanted them to go on this sort of healing journey together, but they have very different problems to heal with these parents. And so I ended up deciding that I wanted to heal Gigi's a little bit through the B&B. And so as I thought through who owns this B&B, I decided to introduce this concept that the B&B owner left behind a diary and that the diary is going to help us figure out who the rightful heir to the B&B is, but it's also going to help Gigi confront some of her problems with her own mother. So I think that all ended up tying in really nicely. But I have to say, it was almost like having to write a second book to write this diary. I had such a hard time with the diary entries and trying to make them sound real and not like they just conveniently fit my plot. Like, so I actually found that really difficult. I don't know if I want to do the diary thing again. I did not do it in the mystery for my Christmas book. I did do it in another book that I have out on submission with publishers right now that's a summer book. It has diary entries in it too, and I found it equally hard in that one. So I think maybe I'm done with the diary thing, but we'll see.
Oh, I'm looking forward to reading about the diary. Love a good journal.
Yeah, I'm somebody who over different periods of my life has kept
Yeah.
a journal. So I love the idea of it, but it is really hard to write a diary for a character and try to reveal like bits and pieces of their past, but like things they really would realistically write in a diary. I don't know. I
Yeah.
found it difficult, but I like how it turned out.
Yes. Not necessarily the same thing, but the addition of the journal in your story, If I'd Have Known, kind of reminds me of the letters on Signed, Sealed, Delivered that
Yes,
are
it
in
is like
each
that.
episode. Yeah.
Yes, and I love Signed, Sealed, Delivered. So yes, I think that it's a lot like those.
Yes.
And Gigi's using them to try and track down who the rightful heir to the B&B
Yep.
is. Yeah, you're right. I hadn't thought about it like that, but I love
Yes.
Signed, Sealed, and Delivered. So maybe, subconsciously I was working that
Yes.
in.
It's a great show. And I think this story is going to be great too for any postables out there.
Yes, thank you.
Yes, of course. The mystery of the B&B adds a historical thread to the romance. How did you balance the unfolding of that journal with the present day storyline?
Yeah, so the diary doesn't get found till part of the way through the book because Gigi's sort of going through the normal channels first. And I tried to make it as legally accurate as possible. In fact, I went to lunch one day with my best friend, even though I am a lawyer, estates and trusts are not my area. I know like just enough to get by. So I went to lunch with my friend one day and I was like, okay, here's what's happening in my book, and I need this to happen. Like, how would that actually happen in real life? Because I just couldn't think of a way to get there. Like, I knew point A and point B, and I could not figure out how to get from one to the other. And she was like, "Oh, you just do this." So she solved my problem for me in one lunch, which then helped pull that whole storyline together. And so I wanted to give Gigi enough to go on, but not give everything away, which hopefully I did successfully.
I think you did without having read it yet, but
Yes, you'll
I
have to
think
let
it's
me
going to
know
be,
after you read it what you think.
I definitely will. And I love the stories with a little bit of history along with present day. So maybe not necessarily time travel, but time travel in the sense of reading the journal.
And I love historical like buildings in my books.
Yeah.
In all my books, there's some sort of historic building. In the
Mhm.
Library Second Chances, it's her bookstore. In the Summer Starting Over, it's Callie's house. In this one, it's the B&B because my area of law was historic preservation.
Mhm.
So I love including, and I live in a town with a lot of historic properties, and so I always infuse historic preservation into the book. And so the idea that this B&B has this storied history on the island, nobody wants to lose this B&B on the island, but we don't know who owns it now. It seems like, why wouldn't the B&B owner have a will? But I can tell you from talking to my friend, it happens more often than you think. And unfortunately, when somebody owns a business, it's even more complicated than just trying to deal with their personal matters. And there is sort of there was a reason why she didn't get a will. You have to read to find out.
Yes. And we have a historic society here in Charleston, South Carolina. Of course, Charleston is very
Charleston's, yeah,
historic. So,
such an amazing city for historic preservation. The reason I use Savannah for my pen name is because I fell in love with historic preservation and decided I wanted to be a historic preservation lawyer because of the city of Savannah. So
Savannah, love
when
that.
I picked a pen name, Savannah was like my first idea. I knew that's what I wanted it to be.
I love that. The old journal is such a compelling narrative device. Did you base it on anything family related?
No, it's totally made up. I needed to drop some clues to get us where we end up with who owns the B&B. So I sort of had an idea for what would be in the journal. And then, like I said, writing the actual entries got a little difficult.
Mhm.
But I wanted to give like just enough to give Gigi something to go on. So yeah, it's all made up. Mhm.
Oh. What is your favorite scene from the book you'd like to witness firsthand? And what's the moment that hit you the hardest, even as the author?
Okay, so firsthand, that one came to me immediately. In the book, there is a joint bachelorette party. They go to a lake house and it's a summer camp themed bachelorette. It's Camp Bachelorette. And when I was writing it, my cousin Hayes was getting married to a young lady named Maggie, and Maggie had just had her bachelorette, and it was at a lake and it was summer camp themed. And I thought the pictures looked like so much fun and that was such a fun theme for a bachelorette. And so I asked her, can I borrow this for my book? Can this be Jesse and Callie's joint bachelorette trip? And so it's just a small group and they go to the lake house for a weekend. For those of you who like, sweet, clean reads, the men and the women are not sleeping in the same bedrooms together. That's all separate. This is a sweet and clean read. You don't have to worry about that. My stuff is always like that. They do all stay in the same house together, but the girls are in bedrooms with girls, the boys are in bedrooms with boys. And I just wanted them all to be there together because I wanted all the secondary characters to interact because some of them are going to have books later. So I wanted to give us some time with some of their friends who may pop up in later books.
No, I love that. Moving on to the series as a whole, how do the themes of identity, place, and second chances tie these two stories together, even with such different plots?
Yeah, I think it goes back to that idea that this is such a tight community where people really watch out for each other. And all of these characters are so intimately tied together through their friendships and through growing up in this place together. And at the end of the day, they would all do anything for each other. They are all super protective of one another. So I think it comes back to that idea that home is really like the people you surround yourself with. And like Gigi and Austin are both people who they did go away. Gigi went away to college and law school. Austin went away to play Major League Baseball. They lived in big cities, but they came back. They were both back already before Callie came back. But this idea that they like went out into the world and tried other things and tried bigger cities and realized that their heart was back on Big Dune Island, and they both made separate choices to come back to Big Dune Island. So, I think it just goes back to how special this community is.
Mhm. There's always something special about a small town. Yeah.
Like I said, Big Dune Island's very much based on Amelia Island, where I live. It is a really small town where people recognize each other's
Mhm.
names, and all the downtown business owners are all friends with each other. And, so much of the relationships in this book are drawn off of relationships I see here all the time.
Yeah. Love a good small town in books and movies and shows.
Yeah.
The friendships in these stories, Callie and Jesse, Gigi and Austin, start deep. How do you write chemistry that doesn't just sizzle but has real roots?
So I wanted Austin and Gigi to sort of continue this really good banter they had from the first book, and this idea that they push each other. Like they both push each other to be better people. They call each other out on things. They are nothing alike, but they both are able to see things the other one can't see about themselves, and they're not afraid to say it. And they're not afraid to sometimes, disagree or not intentionally hurt each other's feelings, but they both want what's best, for the other one. And I love this banter that they have, but I also needed there to be a reason why it had never gone anywhere, why it had never been anything more. And so I felt like what was true to the characters would be that really Austin has been interested in Gigi for a very long time, but never felt like he was good enough for her or like he was the person she would choose. And some of that comes from sort of the problems you'll learn about that he has with his dad, and sort of some of the confidence issues that he has from his dad and from baseball. But he has wanted to ask her out essentially since they were teenagers. And I don't think she really ever realized it. And she never looked at him like that. She always really liked him as a friend, but she had some preconceived ideas about who he was that mostly turned out to not be true. And so, again, it's that idea that maybe they have always been right for each other. It just wasn't the right time. And a lot of it is just Austin's there, but he has to figure out how to get Gigi there too.
Oh, I love that. And friends to lovers is one of my favorite tropes.
Yes, and I love a he balls first. That's always
Yes.
fun.
And I think it's that way on When Calls the Heart, too. The character that Elizabeth has fallen in love with and that is in a relationship with on the show now, Nathan Grant, I think he is the one that fell first. So kind of a he fell first storyline, friends to
I
lovers
love
as well.
that. Yeah,
Yeah.
I end up writing that. It's not in every book, but I end up writing it into a lot of them because I love that trope.
Hmm. Who was your favorite character to write across both books, and which character surprised you the most?
Okay. Gigi was the easiest to write because she is so much like my best friend. And she definitely, out of all my characters, is the most like me too, because we're both type A control freak attorneys. So she was the easiest, but my favorite is probably Austin. I tell people this all the time. Austin is my favorite book boyfriend, and that's not to say that the other guys aren't all great. I love Logan from Library of Second Chances for totally different reasons. I created all of them. I like all of them, but there is a special place in my heart for Austin that I can't quite put my finger on. I just think he is the best boyfriend. He's everything you could ever want. He's loyal and he's kind and he's funny. He is go with the flow and laid back. He is so good to Gigi. He's coaching youth baseball in this book. He's so good to the kids. Like he's just like the perfect package. I love Austin.
Oh, there should be a t-shirt, mentally dating Austin. I'm not sure what his last
Yes,
name
I
is.
love that. I adore him. And it's funny because people have asked me how much is he like my husband? And I say, well, nothing at all. And I say that to my husband's face. I was doing
Oh,
a panel at a book festival and somebody asked me that. And I said, if I was going to write a book that was me and my husband, that would be a grumpy sunshine book. And my husband's the grump. So he's
oh,
nothing like Austin. Austin is like the polar opposite. And that's not to say that I also don't love my husband's
yeah.
personality and our dynamic. But it was kind of fun to write somebody who's the total opposite and to think about somebody who looks at the world in a different way. And
Yeah.
as a lot of people know, I'm a sports business reporter in my other life, and baseball was my first love. And so I think part of me loving Austin too is the fact that he is a former baseball player, and baseball has been such a big part of my life. So I loved making him a baseball player, although I made him have a really complicated relationship with the sport, actually based on a friend that I know. But I loved being able to write those baseball elements in. And that's why I have him coaching youth baseball in this book, was because I wanted to help heal his relationship with baseball too.
Oh, I love that. Everyone needs an Austin in their life.
Yes, he really is the best. Like, I
Yes.
would love to see him come to life on screen, and it has to be Christopher Russell. Like, he has been Christopher Russell in my head from the day I first wrote him.
I talked to Christopher on my podcast earlier this year. He's fantastic. He's very
Oh,
kind.
if you talk to him again, you have to say, I read this book and I think you could play this character in a movie. Let somebody know.
I will. Next time I have him on the podcast, I will tell him. If Big Dune Island were a real place readers could literally visit, what's the one hidden spot only locals like Jesse or Gigi would know about? And where would you want to spend your quiet mornings?
Ooh, okay. So Big Dune Island is based on Amelia Island where I live. So I would say this is where you would come if you wanted a place that's like Big Dune Island, place that locals know that not everybody else knows. The first thing that comes to mind for me, and it's not a restaurant I name in the book, and that's probably part of why, so that I'm not naming it. People don't go hunt for it. But there's a restaurant here called Kitchen 251, and it's one of those places I don't think I mean, we're a tourist-driven economy here, but I don't think many tourists know that it exists. It doesn't really have signage at the road. You have to be looking for it. And so I think that's kind of a secret place that non-tourists wouldn't go. In the book, I have a place called Max Diner, and Max Diner is kind of off the beaten path, and that's like the local place. We don't have a diner like that here, but the closest thing in terms of it being such a like locals place is probably Kitchen 251.
That's awesome. And I will have to check that out if my mom and dad and brother and I ever go to Amelia Island.
Yes.
It sounds good.
It's a short drive for you. We go up to Charleston all the time. It's like
Oh,
three and
yeah.
a half, 4 hours.
Yeah. There's a lot of little beach towns that aren't too far away from here. So, what would be your go-to order at the diner in your books? Yeah, you said Max Diner.
Yeah, so I'm a big cheeseburger kind of person. I love a good cheeseburger and fries. So that would probably be it. Max Diner comes back in, oh gosh, I just turned in the fourth book in the series. Max Diner is a lot in that book. And I made up some fun things for them to have there. And one of them is French fries tossed in Old Bay seasoning, because I think that's delicious. Nobody here that I know of has that. I've had it in another place. And so I gave it to Max Diner. So that would be my go-to there.
That sounds really good right now. I'm not gonna lie.
I love French fries and I love Old Bay seasoning, and
Yeah,
it's really good together.
have to try that. I've never eaten French fries with Old Bay seasoning, I don't
Yeah.
think. I love dipping my French fries in ranch.
Oh, I love ranch. I love sweet potato fries and ranch. There's a
Yes.
restaurant in Gainesville, Florida. I went to law school at University of Florida and I teach some over there now. And there's a restaurant there that they serve their sweet potato waffle fries with a side of ranch, and I had never thought to put that together before. It is so good. And now I'm hungry.
Yes. If the summer of starting over and if I have known each had their own soundtrack, what three songs would absolutely have to be on it?
Oh, okay, so The House That Built Me has to be on
Yep.
there for the summer starting over. And then the song I keep coming back to for If I'd Have Known is Invisible String by Taylor Swift,
Oh, that's a
because
good
I
one.
feel like Austin and Gigi have always been tied together, but they're just now sort of figuring it out. So I really like that. And there is another one by Ashley McBride that I listened to a lot when I was writing The Summer of Starting Over, and I'm trying to think of what the name of it is. She has a song about a dive bar in Dahlonega. It's not that song, it's a different one, and that's the only one I can think of right
Oh
now.
my goodness.
A lot of country music. I mean, I like other kinds of music too, but writing both of these books, I listened to a lot of country music.
Those are great songs. And I think recently I saw you post something about Fearless maybe being
Yes.
tied to the
So
summer of starting over.
Fearless is probably like one of my all-time favorite Taylor
Mm-hmm.
Swift songs, if not my very favorite. It's one of the first ones I like fell in love with by
Yeah.
her. That absolutely, I do have a playlist I listened to for the summer of starting over, and Fearless is on that playlist 100%.
I love
And
that
there,
song.
I don't know if you know, and I don't say it as often as I should, but there is a song for the summer starting over. So in the summer starting over, Callie writes a song called Saltwater Revival, and there are lyrics for the song as she's writing the song throughout the book. And I actually hired a songwriter and I wrote it together with a songwriter, and then she recorded it for me, and we actually released it out on Spotify, and you can get it to put in reels on like Instagram and TikTok and everything. And it's listed in all the outlets on Apple Music and everywhere else as Saltwater Revival by Callie Jackson. We gave it the character's name. So that song, it was written specifically for the book as a song that Callie is writing throughout the book. And I should do more with it than I have because I really like it. It gets stuck in my head. I know I'm biased because I helped write it, but when I listen to it, the woman who sang it's phenomenal and it gets stuck in my head. It's catchy.
I will have to go listen to that after
Yes.
our interview because it sounds
And
great.
that the song comes up again in book four in the series because Callie plays a big role in the fourth book in the series. And so the song comes up again in that book. So I'll get a chance to promo it all over again
Yeah.
next year.
And I will link the song on Spotify and all platforms in the
Perfect.
description for
Thank you.
everyone to go find it. Of course. Every book teaches the author something. What did writing the summer of starting over and if I'd have known teach you about yourself or life in general? And what do you hope readers hold on to after they've turned the final page of these stories?
So the summer of starting over taught me to be patient because it was the first book I wrote, and then I had to sit on it for years. And then the Library of Second Chances became my debut instead. But I never gave up on getting the summer of starting over published. I felt so strongly about Callie and Jesse's story. And then I had started to feel really strongly about turning it into a series, and I just wasn't willing to take no for an answer. In fact, if a publisher hadn't picked it up, I might have gone ahead and self-published it because I felt that strongly about getting that book out. And I'm so grateful to Harpeth Road and the team over there for believing in that book, and not only believing in that book, but believing in making it a series. So I think that book really taught me about being patient and just not giving up, and when you really feel passionate about something, to fight for it. If I'd have known, probably, well, it taught me a lot about sort of planning and plotting the novel out in terms of how the diary was going to fit in. And then also because I wanted to have that twist, but then I had to like plant the seeds for the twist throughout the book. So I learned some new like craft and mechanics writing that book because of the diary and because of the twist that I haven't done in other books.
Hmm.
Um, and then in terms of what I want people to take away from it, summer of starting over, I very much hope people take away like a resiliency, like that, when your career doesn't turn out like you thought, and maybe it's not your career, but when your dreams seem like a little off track, sort of the same thing I learned with that book, like don't give up. Like it might be that now isn't the right time, but don't give up. And if you really believe in it, keep pushing for it. And it might happen down the road. That's what happened for Callie. It's what happened for me with the book. So I hope that people learn kind of a sense of resiliency reading that book. And then if I'd have known, there's very much a kind of found family aspect. We talked about the community in these books and what a big role the community plays, and this idea of like chosen family. Austin and Gigi both come from families where they've got some issues with their parents, and this idea that not only they have each other, but these other people in their lives. And so, I hope people would take away from that book that you can build the family that you want.
Yeah, those are great lessons, and I think everyone should take that to heart. Never give up.
Like, if you tell me no, I will go out of my way to make sure I do whatever it is. I hate being told no.
Yeah. Is there anything else you can tease about your upcoming books in the series?
We just announced the third book in the series. which it follows Chloe and Michael. You will meet both of them in the summer of starting over, and then they show up again in If I'd Have Known. And so the third book is all about them. Chloe owns the coffee shop on the island, and she is Austin's little sister. So Austin and Gigi are in all of them. Austin, Gigi, Callie, Jesse, they're all in the third book as well. But it was kind of fun because I'm a reality TV junkie. I have watched reality TV since like the very beginning and all the stuff. The business shows, the dating shows, the competition shows, whatever. Like I love all of it. And so I decided to put Chloe on a reality TV show. She's trying to win money to expand her business. So that was really fun. I had to like research a lot of stuff about reality TV and how filming works and that kind of stuff. And I got to take the characters to Manhattan for several chapters, both towards the beginning of the book and towards the end of the book. Michael's from Manhattan. He spends a lot of his time on Big Dune Island because he has invested in Jesse's family's company. But he is a New Yorker at heart, and Chloe has never been to New York, and she goes for the first time to audition to be on this show. And so that was kind of fun because I love New York. My husband is an art writer, and we spend a lot of time in New York, and I got to work in some real places that I love in New York. So the restaurants and the hotel and things that I mentioned in New York, they're all real places. So I'm looking forward to the book being out and being able to like go to those places with my book.
Oh, that's awesome. Love that. And I can't wait to read the third book. I can't wait to read all the books in this
Oh,
series.
thank you. It's still plenty of Big Dune
Mm.
Island in that book. They're not in New York the whole book, but I thought it was kind of
Mhm.
fun to like get Chloe out of Big Dune Island. She did not go off to college and has not had some of the experiences that Gigi and Austin and Callie had moving away. And so this is sort of the first time Chloe is getting outside of her comfort zone. And I thought it was really funny to take this, small town cafe owner and take her up to New York and get to see what she thinks the first time she sees New York because I didn't see New York the first time till I was, I think, 21 or 22. So, like, I remember going there and how overwhelming it was and what it felt like. And I was from Atlanta. It's not like I was from a small town, but like, I still remember what New York is like the first time. And so it was really fun to take Chloe there and get to kind of see it through her eyes for the first time. So, I actually just saw the cover for the first time today and I am obsessed. It is exactly like I envisioned it. And I can't wait till I get to show that to
Mm.
everybody.
And New York is a very fun place to visit. I've been there twice.
I don't want to live there, but I like
Yeah.
visiting, and so Chloe gets to visit a couple of times.
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah, same for me. Would not want to live there, but I've enjoyed the times when I have visited. It's been fun.
I got to put my favorite restaurant and my favorite hotel in there, so I'm
Yeah.
excited.
So as we start to wrap up, I have a fun rapid fire game if you would like to play.
Let's go.
Favorite fictional world you'd love to live in that's not your books.
Oh, favorite fictional. Oh, that Stars Hollow from Gilmore Girls.
Good
I know it's
answer.
not a book; it's a show. Is that okay?
Yeah, it could be a show too.
Okay, Stars Hollow.
Hope Valley when calls the heart.
That doesn't surprise me that you
Yes.
say that.
Or the DLO and Sign Seal Delivered.
I like that too. Or I really like it's not Hallmark, but Sweet Magnolias. I think it's on Netflix. I like that town a lot.
Favorite character you've ever written?
Austin. I know we already talked about that, but it's
Yeah.
100% it's Austin.
Austin, yes. Favorite book you wish you'd written?
Ooh, that's a good question. I am obsessed with a book by Christy Woodson Harvey that's called The Summer of Songbirds. It is set at summer camp. So, again, that goes back to my summer camp theme I ended up doing for the Bachelorette party in this book. But I loved that book. And I wish I had written a book like that. In fact, I have an idea for a summer camp book. It's nothing like that one, but it is summer camp related. So hopefully I'll get the time to write that eventually.
Fingers crossed that you do, because I think it would be a fun story to write.
Yes.
Favorite city you've ever visited or want to visit?
Ooh, so my sort of go-to for cities I've already visited, I mentioned earlier how much I love Savannah, and that's why I use Savannah as my pen name. I live 2 hours from there, so I go all the time. And I used to say that was my favorite city outside of where I live, Amelia Island was my favorite city. Now I live here, so it's not a city I visit anymore. It would have been Savannah, but I think Savannah's kind of been overtaken now by Breckenridge, Colorado. I go to Breckenridge, Colorado 4 or 5 times a year. I love it there. I would like to kind of split my year between where I live and there, so I'll go Breckenridge.
Okay, yeah. I've heard Breckenridge is beautiful. I'd
So
say
cute.
For
My
me,
Christmas book is set just outside of Breckenridge, so.
oh, I'm sure it's beautiful. For me, I'd probably say that's really tough. Franklin, Tennessee, or Seaside, because I've
Always
been to,
wanted to go to Seaside. The pictures are so beautiful.
yes, we drove through there. I think it was 2 years ago for my 30th birthday on the way to Pensacola.
Okay.
Yeah. Beautiful
I haven't
town.
made it over there yet, but it's on my
Yeah.
list.
Favorite comfort food or snack?
Oh, my favorite comfort food is pot roast, probably. And in fact, I just had it for lunch because I made it a few days ago and I had it left over for lunch.
Oh my goodness. That's hilarious because we just had pot roast last night for dinner.
Yeah. See, it's good, like Southern comfort food.
Yes. For me, oh my goodness. Pizza and then snack, probably popcorn. Love
Yeah.
popcorn.
I eat pizza at least once a week, and I'm a big popcorn person too.
Yes. Or chips and hummus.
I'm more of a chips and cheese dip kind of person.
Yeah, I like cheese dip too. Favorite movie or TV show you never get tired of?
Oh, I've watched Gilmore Girls a lot, but you know what I've watched more than Gilmore Girls is One Tree Hill. I love both of them, but One Tree Hill I have watched over and over and over and over so much. I mean, Gilmore Girls too. It's close. I've watched them
Mhm.
both many, many, many times.
Yeah. Love Gilmore Girls. I've never seen One Tree Hill, but I've heard
Oh,
it's
it's
great.
so good. And there's a time jump in One Tree Hill because there
Okay.
were, I think, 8 seasons, and there's a time jump in season 5. And actually, I like the seasons after the time jump even better than the original seasons, which is not the case for most shows. I mean, most shows, especially if they do a time jump, like things are going south fast. But
Oh, yeah.
One Tree Hill did its time jump really well.
Oh, I'll have to watch that show because I've heard
So
great
good.
things about it. Yeah. For me, that's really tough.
It's
I'm
not
not
When
gonna
Calls the Heart.
I'm not gonna say When Close to Heart and Find Seal Delivered because that's a given. So if I'm going outside of Hallmark, probably I know this is more of a show for teenagers, but I loved and still love Lizzie McGuire with Hilary Duff.
That was a great one. I love Hillary Duff.
Yes. And then WKRP in Cincinnati, which is a show from the 70s. That
I've seen some episodes, but it's been a really long time since I've seen any of it. Mhm.
yes. And then Andy Griffith. Love the Andy Griffith show. That's a great one too.
Yeah.
Favorite music genre or artist right now?
I mean, I listen to a lot of different stuff, but probably country is what I listen
Mhm.
to the most. And favorite artist, I'm listening to a lot of Megan Maroney right now. She did a
He's
song
great.
with Kenny Chesney this summer that I loved. And so then I started listening to more of her music. And I took my dad to see Kenny Chesney at the Sphere for his 70th birthday this summer. And he had a different guest every night. And all leading up to it, I kept looking, and Megan Maroney was on her own tour, but she didn't have a concert that night. And I kept saying to my dad, like, oh, I hope Megan Maroney is the special guest the night that we're there. And then she was. So
Oh, that's
it was
awesome.
awesome. Yeah. So I've been listening to her a lot lately.
Oh, that's awesome. I don't necessarily have a favorite genre because I pretty much like everything except rap. I'm not a huge rap fan, but artist, I'd say, love the Jonas Brothers, love Scotty McCreery, love Emily Ann Roberts. Those are just three. So I'll just pick those three.
Good ones.
Yes. And then last one, favorite way to disconnect and recharge.
Probably going out on the beach. I live walking distance to the beach, and I find it so relaxing, whether it's like sitting out there or walking on the beach, whatever, just the sound of the waves and the like smell of the salt air. Like I don't care what has happened, what kind of bad mood I'm in or bad day I've had. Like I go out there and it is so soothing and I always feel better.
Yes, that's a great way to disconnect and recharge. I'd probably just say spending time anywhere with my family.
A good one.
Well, this was so much fun, Savannah. Thank you again for taking the time to come on and chat. I had a great time.
Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, anytime. And where can my listeners find you on social media if they are not following you already?
So I'm on pretty much every social media channel, and I'm Savvy Carlisle with 2 V's. I wanted to have the same thing on every platform. It didn't fit, so I did Savvy with 2 V's, so SAVVY, and then Carlisle. And then my website, savannahcarlisle.com.
All right, I will link all of those in the description, and everyone go check out her new book if I'd have known, and then The Summer of Starting Over as well as The Library of Second Chances. And look out for her upcoming books as well.
Thank you.
Of course. All right, everyone. I will see you in my next episode. Love y'all. Bye. All right, everyone. I think that concludes my interview with Savannah Carlisle. If you enjoyed this episode and are watching on YouTube, you can like this video and share what your favorite book from Savannah is in the comments. If you were listening on Spotify, make sure to rate and review, as your feedback is always greatly appreciated. If you want to stay up to date on all of my episodes, you can subscribe to this channel on YouTube and follow along on Spotify, and make sure to turn on the bell so you are alerted when those new episodes come. You can also find the podcast on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads at Swing My Heart Podcast, and Twitter at Swing My Heart Pod. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you have a wonderful day or night wherever you are in the world, and I will see you in my next episode. Love y'all. Bye.